Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Ginny Worley-Hemmeter. Today we welcome author and illustrator Peter H. Reynolds, creator of some of our very favorite picture books. Join us for a conversation about art, creativity, and the power of words. Well, Peter, welcome to Anderson's Bookshop. We're so happy to have you here today.
It's wonderful to finally be here.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, and congratulations on your latest masterpiece, The Word Collector.
Thank you so much.
It's been very well reviewed, and I think it's doing very well on the shelves, too.
It is flying off the shelves. It makes me very happy.
Yeah, that's
It really
wonderful.
does.
Where did the inspiration for this specific story come from?
Well, this is kind of, a personal, I think a lot of my stories are very personal. I love writing in my journals, and I have loads of them, and I make a promise to myself that every night before I go to sleep, I read a little bit, and I make some mark in my journals. Whether it's a little drawing or a little poem, sometimes it's a whole story. But I have one journal that's dedicated to words, and I just add words. And I would tell kids this over the years, and I say, I collect words. And I got such a good response from that. And kids were kind of curious, because I said some people collect stamps and some people collect rocks. I collect words. And that just kind of stuck with me. I thought, one day I'm going to write a story about that. And I did.
Yes, you did. And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, Jerome writes down his favorite words in this, where you're talking about in the same way. How did you choose which words were going to appear on his pages?
Yeah, well, that was fun. I mean, I haven't counted them all up, but there's got to be thousands of words in this book, because he's collected all these little words. So I had to think of all of these words. Now, some of them are my favorite words, but then as I was doing the book over the past year, words would just kind of pop up, and I'd be like, okay, that one's going into the book. And friends also sent me their favorite words as well, so I just sprinkled them throughout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like once you're talking about a certain kind of car, and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere.
Right,
like
that's
you think, all these words are appearing out of nowhere.
The yellow Volkswagen theory. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite words?
My favorite words, savor. I love that one. Dream, spark, imagination, books, generosity, justice, and I could go on.
Yes, but I like that those are words that that you favorite actions as well, favorite traits, favorite goals, if you will, things to work for.
Yeah. I mean, they're words that sound amazing. And you can sort of impress your friends with. In fact, when I was asking kids what their favorite words were on my school visits, and one little girl said, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Right. Very impressed that she knew that word. But I think just the really simple words like love,
They're definitely powerful.
Those have got a lot of power.
And the ones that are fun to say too, like kaleidoscope,
right?
Which is in the book
Kaleidoscope, yeah. And I make a point in the book that you don't have to know the meaning of the word to love the word.
Right.
You could just love the way it sounds, and eventually, if you find out what it means, that's kind of a bonus.
Right.
But I want to take the pressure off of memorizing the meanings of words. I want kids to fall in love with words, and when you're little, you have your ears, and you can hear if it sounds like a cool word, add it to your collection.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. Kids who read a lot, when when they're real little, they have their ears, but when they're older and can read, there's the phenomenon of having read it on paper, but not necessarily heard it said out loud or said it out loud yourself.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
So you get words like a child said to me the other way, "Well, Jopaleno," and I said,
Jopaleno.
Jalapeno, aha. But she saw it on the paper, and it started with a J. So that's how she pronounced it.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see the change from how they listen and how they see it and then hear it in their own mind. I've given them those words for that. So other than words and drawings, what do you collect?
What do I collect? I Well, as a child, I collected everything that I mentioned in the book. I collected rocks. I had a little rock collection. I collected coins. I collected stamps, and I collected comic books. That was probably my big thing. I love comics. Of course, they're called graphic novels now, and it's okay to read them. But
Yes.
when I was growing up, it wasn't quite as accepted.
Right.
But it was great training for me as a storyteller, because comic book creators are really, really good storytellers.
Well, you have to be, absolutely.
Right.
And that's a clear
Yeah.
path to what your chosen profession is from
Yeah.
that to there. So
Yeah.
what's the earliest recollection you have of wanting to be an author and an illustrator?
Let's see. First, I would say, well, when I was in kindergarten, I was working on a piece of artwork, and the girl next to me decided she would add something to my drawing. And I remember being, today I wouldn't be offended, but at the time I'm like, this is my drawing, like I pushed her away. But I think it was being proud of what I was creating, that I loved what I was working on. Now I love collaborative art. If you and I did a drawing together, I would be very happy.
Right.
And then in first grade, my twin brother and I made a newspaper. So it wasn't a school project. We just decided we would make a newspaper. So we wrote and illustrated a newspaper. And I think that really was the first time that I caught the publishing bug. So it wasn't just illustration, it was publishing. And publishing means sharing. And I don't know why, but I was imbued with this desire to share. And I wanted to take this one copy and make many copies of it.
Imbue, another great word.
The imbue is a good, right? Yeah, yeah.
What's the first book you can remember reading as a child, or the first one you remember being read to? Is there one that really stuck with you?
Well, our older sister Jane would read to us after school. We'd come home and she would read us books that she was interested in. So she was a couple of years older. She was a teenager. And she would read us William Shakespeare and Charles Dickens. And I think that, to me, was the biggest memory, was David Copperfield, Oliver Twist. And I think that also planted a seed for the kind of characters that I like, because I love the underdog. And I love kids who can kind of power through difficult situations. And also, Charles Dickens helped us see that adults really know how to make a mess of the world. And then you throw this beautiful, innocent child into it, and they have to kind of wend their way through this crazy world. And it takes perseverance, resilience, and real strong character. And so I thank my sister Jane for reading us those books.
Wonderful.
One of the first books that I bought with my own money, it was back in 1970 at the Burlington Mall in Massachusetts. I bought a copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which had just been out for a few years. And I loved that book. And it was the first book that I read all the way to the end by myself. And then I had this cool sensation to read it again. And that was the first book that I read again, and then again, and again, and again. So it's my that's my second all-time favorite book.
Okay.
I have a first.
Would you care to share your first?
Yes, my first is a blank book. With nothing in it. Because it can be anything.
It's an opportunity.
Right?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you're a rereader then?
I am.
Okay.
I do like to reread.
Because there's like a specific breed of person that's a rereader, and people that are not rereaders. I am not a rereader.
You're not a rereader.
But my children
Yes.
are rereaders. And sometimes it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think that you can, you get something different every time you read it. It's like watching a film. You're like, oh my gosh, was that scene in that film?
Right.
I didn't notice it the first time. There are all these layers.
Right.
So,
I'm definitely a proponent of reading things at different stages in your life, rereading things
Yeah.
at different stages to get things from it.
Yeah.
It's when you finished it and you literally close it and start it again.
right.
But I'm sure they're getting
Yeah.
something from that too. But
Yeah.
it's
I usually leave a little time in between.
little space to dwell, yes.
Yeah.
So what inspires you to, in general, to write and create on a day-by-daily basis, it sounds like, in your journal?
I think that, well, I do know that being able to draw and to write, it is a gift. And, gifts are designed to give. So I think that I have, I'm very blessed that I can do it. And I know that some people write books to make people laugh or to teach people about spiders. I think if I can create books that will make people think and to help them navigate a more amazing journey, or to help those around them to have amazing journeys, then my time on Earth will have been well spent.
Right. Which is from North Star, right?
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
the thing with that one.
Which is my first book, The North Star.
Right.
Yeah.
So in Ish, there's a character named Leon who says some things to his brother Ramon that really changed the way Ramon looks at things.
Right.
Did that moment ever happen for you as a child or as an adult?
Yeah, well, Ramon is, he's on a roll, he's loving drawing, and then his older brother Leon says something cruel about his artwork, and it sort of crushes him. And I don't think that it didn't happen specifically to me that, someone said something horrible to me, but I've noticed that well-meaning, especially well-meaning adults say the wrong thing to kids. And I just say it's clumsy. It's not mean, it's just clumsy. They say the wrong thing to kids, whether it's about art or writing or anything. They just miss these great opportunities to encourage kids, and they'll say something and they'll just steamroll a child. And since writing Ish, a lot of people come to me and they tell me these stories about how their Ish got squished. How their teacher told them they couldn't draw, and then kids believe it, and it takes those labels get stuck on them. It's like, well, I'm not an artist,
right?
And it might take decades to peel the label off.
Definitely. So
my mission is to stop people from sticking labels on people, and encourage people to be kind of brave and fearless, and tell the world, back off. This is the way I do it. This is the way I write. This is the way I draw. This is who I am. Kind of get used to it. But I always throw in that you should be kind as well. So all my books feature kind people.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. What do you think is the best advice you can give a child in that situation? What's the thing that we should be saying?
Well, I think that's a big question, but I think being, for adults, it's take a deep breath, and you can say what you're thinking to yourself, but really try to understand where your child is, and don't just pause. And the big lesson really is listen to your child. They've got a valid point. You may not understand it right now, but they have a valid point. That's their universe. That's their space. And getting to know your child, and if you're a teacher, getting to know your student, it changes everything. And it sounds kind of easy. It's like, of course, the kid's sitting in front of me, but it's not, though. It really doesn't happen, especially in public education. That's one of my, I'm a champion of public schools, of the potential of public schools.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that we have to work on is making sure that getting to know each child is the most important part of the curriculum. Nothing else matters. If you don't know who's sitting in front of you, it's very difficult to teach them to read, write, and problem solve.
Right.
But once if you find out a child loves motorcycles, it's like, I guarantee you I can teach you to read, write, and problem solve just with motorcycles.
Yeah.
And kids are amazing. They're interesting. They're wonderful. And we have a system that kind of is trying to fit all children, and it's a system that needs a little creativity.
Right.
So that's one of my missions.
Okay, that's lovely. Yeah. That's really lovely.
Yeah.
When you are creating, do you start with an outline? Does it just sort of come out of you?
It kind of comes as a like a bolt of lightning. Just the idea comes to me, and the idea comes first, and it's usually like it's an issue like. Spending more time at the dinner table. Like, that's fascinating to me. Like, I think that everyone needs to sit at the dinner table. Turn off your phones and enjoy dinner together. So I kind of start with that. I'm like, okay, I'm writing a story, and then I see this cast appear to tell that story. And I can see the dinner table. And so I quickly start, well, actually, what happens first is I make a film in my head. And it comes really fast. I see the film, and then I take 3x5 note cards that I get from the pharmacy, and I basically just jot down notes from the film that I saw. So it's like, okay, these are the 5 or 10 scenes from the film, and then I write little notes, what's happening in each scene, and then I kind of read them back, and I'm like, oh, I have a story. So
Okay. All right.
that's the way I do it.
Did you always intend to write for children, or is that just the way the publishing panned out for you?
That writing for children happened really probably as an outgrowth of being a parent. And my daughter Sarah, when she was 4 or 5, she loved to read. She loved being read too, and we had worn through all the books on the bookshelves in our house, and she's like, oh, read me this one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this one has so many words, it's like so long and so boring. And I thought, I'll just give it a try. I'll tell you a story. So she said, okay. So I told her a story. She was as happy with being told a story as being read. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool, that worked. And so I started doing that more and more and more, and then realized it's a lot of fun. And when you're creating for a child, there's a different part of the brain that operates, and it sort of accesses your own child brain, but also the wisdom of an adult. You kind of mix it all together. And then I wrote these stories down for my daughter, and one became a film called The Blue Shoe, and it won second place in the World Animation Celebration, and that kind of inspired me to keep going. And I wrote a book called The North Star, and that was kind of the book that started it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful collection that you have. They're really amazing.
Thank you.
But let's talk about some of the collaborations that you've done, because you've worked with many people, from your twin brother,
Yes,
and
my twin
Susan
brother,
Verde,
Paul. Yes, Susan
Allison
Verde.
McGee,
Yeah.
and of course the late great Amy Cress Rosenthal.
Yes.
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 How is the process different for you when you're collaborating versus working on your own?
I love collaborating. It's for me, I know that I have this magic wand, because I could take your words and wave this magic wand. Even if you told me a story right now, yeah, I would be illustrating it in my head.
Just how your brain works.
And it's so much fun for me to say, is this what's going on in your head? So I sketch it out. And so it's a really fun process for me. It's almost too much fun, because I love collaborating so much that I had to remind myself that I need to be sure to write my own books and get back to doing my own books. But I love collaborating. I've been collaborating with Megan McDonald on the Judy Moody series for many, many years. And Susan Verde she's kind of my cosmic twin. The stuff she writes, it feels very much like me.
Yeah, it goes very well together.
And we've got some special books in our collection now. I Am Yoga, I Am Peace.
Yes.
And then we just finished one called I Am Human. Not too many people know about that yet, but it's a really, really that's going to be a very special book.
Oh, I can't wait.
And I think the world needs that one.
Yes.
And then of course Amy Cress Rosenthal was such a treasure.
Yes.
She's amazing. She still is amazing. Her spirit lives on.
Oh, her word, yes. Her message, her words, absolutely.
She's just amazing. So I was very proud to be able to say I worked with Amy.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So you've been writing for many years. How do you feel like publishing has changed since you started, through technology, or has social media impacted it?
Well, social media has been great, because it's turning people on to books that people wouldn't find otherwise. In the old days, you'd have to you relied on advertising, and there was only a very little amount of money for advertising from publishers, and some great books would get lost. 3,000 books a month are being published, and a lot of good books get swept downstream, never get seen. So thank goodness for social media, because the people who read those books and love them, they let the world know. So that's great. The technology, I'm kind of surprised that technology hasn't done as much damage to the physical book as I thought it would.
Right.
And which is a wonderful thing, because I also own a bookstore.
Yes, you do.
In my hometown of Dedham, Massachusetts, and we opened that 15 years ago. Just as the digital revolution was starting.
Right.
So we were thinking like, oh, did we jump in at the wrong time? And as it turns out, people, especially children's books, I think that's one area that is kind of sacred. That I
Sitting
think,
on your lap, holding it.
Parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, they really want that experience of curling up with the book, a real book.
Yes.
And I don't think real books are going away anytime soon.
We agree.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fellow independent bookstore person. We agree.
Yeah.
All right, so you let us have a bit of information about your next book with Susan, but what other
Yes.
projects are you working on? Anything you can tell us about?
I think I'm allowed to tell you that I've did a new book. It's bookish. It's a journal with Abrams Notary, and it comes out, I believe, in the fall. It's called Start with a Dot, and it's a guided journey with yours truly. And if you can make a dot, I can take you through this book, and you can make really cool art and let your lines flow. And it's like 164 pages of with lots of room for you, because that's my philosophy. Is like, I'm here just to inspire you, but it would make me very happy if I saw you draw and write and create. So
I'm shocked that you haven't had a journal yet, considering how important that is to your daily.
Yeah. So
creativity.
now check that off. I now have I have
sounds
a journal.
Perfect.
So, and then I have a sequel. I did Happy Dreamer with Scholastic, and then The Word Collector, and then I have a new one that's just finishing up.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to share the title yet.
That's all right.
But it's.
We will wait for it.
It will. It's a good follow up to The Word Collector.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
So.
All right, so now we're going to move into our lightning round, which is like the rapid fire Q&A. Just answer first things that come into your mind. We talked about this a little bit, but if you have any more to add, what were your favorite books as a child?
Chronicles of Narnia.
Okay.
Yeah, The Hobbit. Oliver Twist.
You went straight into the big things.
I did. I know.
That's wonderful. What about a book in high school or college that will just stay with you forever?
High school and college. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Okay. A book you've read that you wish you'd written.
Ooh.
Or illustrated, in your case.
Yeah. With The Museum by Susan Verde.
Okay.
It sounds like I wrote it, and I told Susan, if anyone else illustrates this book, I'll be very jealous.
All right.
So at least I got to illustrate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with 3 authors, living or gone, who would it be? And
Wow.
why?
Well, Charles Dickens would be awesome. Roald Dahl. And well, J.K. Rowling, why not?
All right. Reach for the stars.
Yeah.
What fictional book of a world would you want to live in?
Oh, wow. Fictional world. Actually, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind getting a degree from Hogwarts. I'd like to hang out there.
I think you wouldn't be the only one who did in that boat. Quite the large class.
Yeah.
What was the last book that made you laugh?
The last book that made me laugh. Oh gosh. Well, I have a bookstore, so we have so many books, and I mean, all of Mo Willems' stuff. I think Mo just has. He gets it. He knows how to entertain a crowd.
Yes.
And I would just say any of his books.
I would agree
they're
with
hilarious.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
What about the last book that made you cry?
Then the last book that made me cry, I would say it was I Am the Cheese by Robert Cormier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it was yours at the end, Word Collector. It was, yes, that definitely.
Thank you.
That got me right in the feels, What would you call your guilty pleasure read? You may not have time for those things as a bookstore owner, but.
Oh, guilty pleasure. Yeah. The silly stuff. Do you know Sunday comics? I think I grew up reading the comics, and I think it's sort of something that's not. I think it's getting eclipsed a little bit. People are moving away from newspapers, but I love the Sunday funnies.
Yes. All right. What book have you faked read? Faked reading.
Faked reading? What? Oh, you just tell
What's
people.
What's your fake read? Yeah.
I read that book.
Right. You just admit.
Yes. That's a funny question. I don't know if I fake read a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mine's Moby Dick.
Oh.
I
love that. That was fantastic.
All right.
I read that.
I'm
Really,
glad.
I
I'm
read
glad.
that from beginning to
There's
end.
a lot of good words in it. So
It does start with the word ish,
Right.
right?
Yes. Well,
Call me
starts
Ishmael.
with call, but yes.
Oh, does it? What is the first line?
Call me Ishmael.
Oh, that's right. Very
Yes,
good.
yes.
Yes.
All right.
Call me.
How many
I didn't
pages?
read it actually.
Okay.
I was
Well,
kidding.
then
I
you've
was like,
successfully
I
been.
faked read
Yes,
that
there you
book.
go.
Yeah.
How many pages would you give a book before you give up on it, or maybe you don't? Are you a finish it before you give up kind of a person?
I'll go for 2 chapters,
Okay.
and if it's not doing it for me,
Okay.
moving on.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books in the world to read.
Yeah.
What was the last book you gave as a gift?
The last book I gave as a gift was, what was it? Oh gosh, it was Barney Salzberg's Beautiful Oops.
Yes.
Yes,
That would make
which
sense.
is a fantastic book.
Definitely.
Big fan of Barney's.
What is your favorite book to screen adaptation?
Oh, book to screen. Wow. Yeah, that's always tricky, right? It can be very disappointing. Let's see what. I'm usually not too fond of them. I like them separately. I don't really like to compare because they're their own thing.
Yes, they're different.
It's funny because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was my favorite book, the film was just like so bizarre and it's not what I was imagining at all. And my first inclination was I did not like it, but it kind of grew on me. I love Gene Wilder. I'm talking about the original one.
Yes.
The second one was a little creepy.
Yes, we only talk about the first
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So
Okay. What are you reading right now? Do you have a book on the road with you?
I am reading Zealot by what's his name?
Oh, I can't think of it either,
Yeah,
but I know which one you're talking about.
right.
Yeah.
Don't tell him I.
No, I won't
I
because I
forgot
can't
his
think of it
name.
either, but okay.
But I saw him interviewed, and he's just such a smart guy
Yeah.
about history and religion, and it's really takes you back. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you so much for speaking with us and for sharing your beautiful, beautiful works with us. We're
Thank you so
really
much.
proud to have
I
you here.
really enjoyed hanging out with you, especially among books. I
Amongst
feel
books?
very, very at home here. So
Agreed.
it's very cozy.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Peter Reynolds' books are some of our very favorites that teach us to listen to our inner creative voice, and The Word Collector is no different. Thanks for joining us on Authors Revealed.